Hey everyone, welcome. If you're new to the community, I see some familiar faces. We'll let people trickle in as they join us, but thanks for being here, everyone. Jamie, hi. Joanna, hi. Brittany, I don't think we've met.
Hi, good evening.
So a little bit of housekeeping. We'll just keep everybody on mute for now. And then we'll open it up to Q&A as after we introduce Abby Rosenblum. I'm super pumped to have her here. Welcome, everyone. I'll keep admitting some people that are in the waiting room. We've got a pretty full house tonight. Hopefully you've prepared some questions for the modern matchmaker, Abby Rosenblum. If not, that's quite all right. I'm sure something will come up as we chat, but I just wanted to welcome you all and set our intention for the evening. Really what we want to get out of this evening is to answer your most pressing questions about dating in this current era, dating online, dating offline. It can be any type of a question within that realm. I'll let Abby introduce herself here in a minute, so it'll kind of inspire a little bit more of our context for tonight. But that's our intention, is really to come educate you guys on what modern dating is all about. As we get started, if you can, in the chat box below, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to be here? Just post that in there and give me a detail of where you're from. And that's kind of like our cost of entry. We want it to be very engaging and very interactive. So don't hesitate to communicate with each other in that chat box over there. Scale 1 to 10, how excited you are to be here and where you're from. Abby, thank you.
I'm obviously a 10. I mean, come on.
That would lead me to believe that you're an enthusiast on the Enneagram, but I know that's not true.
You already know so much about me. That's not fair.
That's very true. And the rest of us are going to get to know you too. Oh, Amanda, 6 months new to Denver. That's amazing. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We do record this event so that I can send you the recording tomorrow. If you don't want your appearance here, just take off your video. That's totally okay. But this is an added value. It does not get shared publicly. It's an unlisted link. It's so you can view it at a later date. If you want to go back and rewatch it, that's your opportunity to do so. All right, I'm reading some of these. 10, certainly from Miami. Jessica, hi, good to see you. A little bit more housekeeping. In our group coaching program, this is basically the framework that we have for our group coaching program. We use a technique called Gestalt. And what that means is we do not provide each other unsolicited advice. When we're asked for feedback, we're happy to give it. But what that sounds like in our group setting and our group forum is you can comment on somebody's share or a question to Abby or myself. And you could say things like, hey, that resonated with me because, or that hit home for me because, or that reminds me of a time in my life when I felt something similar, and then you're welcome to share. That's what our coaching program sounds like. My name is Dave Glazer. If you guys don't know me, I host the Believe, Be Real, Be Bold podcast for authentic dating. And my personal mission in life is to share the benefits of fitness and nutrition and personal growth for mental health. I've been a strength coach for 10 years in the Denver area, and that's where I started. I had absolutely no idea I was going to start a dating podcast until I went through a couple of breakups myself in 2017. The second of which really showed me who I was through my attachment style. And then from there, it was like game on for personal growth. And I decided that once I understood that there was a connection between the health of my relationships and my impact on fitness and nutrition goals, I was like, okay, I want to learn more about myself through the lens of the Enneagram and through the lens of the attachment style. So that's how we ended up here. Before I introduce Abby, I'll share our group's mission statement and ethos, and it'll give you a little bit more idea into our culture. So we are an inclusive community that believes self-awareness and personal growth are the keys to having a fulfilled life. We believe that there is more to life than repeating old patterns and reopening old wounds. We believe that independence and interdependence can live harmoniously within ourselves and others. We believe that living boldly is the living boldly and vulnerably is the only real way to discovering our authentic selves. So if anything came up for you guys while you were reading, if one word, listening to that, if one word stood out at you, post it in the chat box below, whether that was like self-awareness or independence. Just give me some feedback. We want this to be very interactive. If something jumped out at you, don't hesitate to share that. And I am so pleased to introduce our special guests, Abby Rosenblum, the modern matchmaker. I want to open it up to you so that you can introduce yourself, share a little bit more about who you are and what brings you here tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave, for inviting me, to chat with the group. I'm super excited to get to know you each more, answer your questions, and that mission statement, that is on point. I love that. I am all about, helping people date in a more authentic and intentional way. So yes, I am totally on board with this group and cannot wait to, share whatever knowledge I can with all of you. So I'm Abby Rosenblum. I am the founder and matchmaker with the Social Modern Matchmaking. So this is a matchmaking service based in Denver, Colorado. I work with singles all over the state, but primarily in Denver and Boulder metro areas. And, I set up all blind dates. I host singles events, like I said, to help people meet in a more intentional and authentic way, which right now is, as I'm sure all of you know, even more difficult than ever before. So I actually just went full time with this amazing matchmaking business 5 months ago. And it has been super exciting to bring people together and just offer an alternative to dating apps. I think dating apps serve a purpose. They are good in their own ways, but for those who want something different, uh, that's me. So, I really get to know everyone I work with. Number one, I want to know your dreams, your goals, your passions, so that way I can find you a person where you can achieve your goals together. Of course, you need all those good things on paper that match up, when it comes to kids, religion, politics, COVID, all those deal breakers that come up these days. So, yeah, I really just want to get to know people to set them up. I background check everyone I work with. We do a couple personality tests. I do the Enneagram now, thanks to Dave. He inspired me and was a guest on my podcast and has just a wealth of knowledge about that. I mean, I was even saying before, we need to have another meeting so he can educate me. So you all are so lucky that you have Dave to lead you in this journey to, become better daters and meet great people. And I'm open to literally any and all questions. And yeah, I will let Dave take it away now again.
Thanks, Abby. That was an awesome introduction. And as I grill Abby on one question, I want you guys to post, feel free to post your questions in the chat box. Because my question for Abby is like, you're a 5 on the Enneagram. Is that correct?
Well, I'm a 7, I think.
You're a 7. Okay. So I was right when you were like, I'm excited to be here. So the 7 is the enthusiast. And I wonder why we were talking about the 5 so much on the podcast episode that I was a guest on with you. Maybe we were reflecting back to like a point in my life when I wasn't my best self. And that's more of like who I show up as. But tell me what you know about the Enneagram as people post their questions in the chat box below. As you do that, if you guys want to actually voice your question, please just hit the raise hand button and I'll unmute you and you guys can actually ask your question instead of posting in the chat box. So Abby, what do you know about the enthusiast and how does that show up for you in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew more. I want to do much more research on the Enneagram. I just know I am a people person. I'm in like being in the spotlight. So I'm in my happy place right now, getting to talk to you and getting to talk to everyone here and share everything. I don't totally use the Enneagram to match people up, but I think it's a really interesting resource. We were even talking about just for people to learn more about themselves. Like, oh, this is how I show up, but maybe when I'm not, like you said, when I'm not by myself, I show up as another type.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I will defer to you on any Enneagram questions.
Thanks. I think that was a really good, succinct way to kind of sum up with that enthusiasm in your voice as well. So I love how authentically you show up. I'm gonna turn it over to Ashley. Ask her to unmute so that she can ask you her question, and then we'll get to this question in the chat box.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi, Abby. My question was about the men in the matchmaking world in your business, and women like looking for a man. Is like, what kind of men come into working with a matchmaker? Where do you find them? That was my big question. Like, where do you find these people? And if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Totally.
Thanks.
Yeah, the classic matchmaker issue is that we do always have more women than men. It's totally across the board what happens. But the men who come to me are awesome. I am definitely selective with both the men and women that I bring into my circle of singles because I really want everyone to be authentically themselves. So, they are the men who have done that self work, who are emotionally aware, everything you hope and dream of. So I promise you, men do exist like that. I know sometimes the stigma with matchmaking is, oh, they're all men who are socially awkward or can't hold a conversation or can't find a date on their own. And to be honest, like those are not the men who I would work with, because if I set them up with my ladies, they're not going to be happy. I definitely don't turn those men away, but I work with amazing coaches like Mr. Dave here, and coaches who work specifically with men too to help them with their confidence and help them become more social. So I send them away to the coach, and then when they're ready, they come back. So, I definitely ask a lot of my clients, especially the guys, because sometimes they're taught from a young age to not be in tune with their emotions. So I think that is just a really good quality in a relationship. And to be able to communicate on a whole other level is great, as I'm sure you all are learning here.
Thanks, Abby. That was awesome. Ashley, if you have a follow-up to that, you're welcome to raise your hand again. If something came up for you, don't hesitate to do a follow-up. But now that reminds me, Abby set me up on a date with one of her members, and I cannot say enough about that experience. Like, we were a good match when we did connect over Zoom, and I love that the comfort level for us both via Zoom. I think it was in September, maybe August, something like that. But I just loved, excuse me, I just loved how everything was set up. And you asked me ahead of time what my comfort level was. What am I looking for? You vetted me with the background check. I can attest to that. I remember that. So, Ashley, did you have anything come up? Did you want to contribute anything else before I get to these questions in the chat box? All right. So,
That was helpful. Thank you.
thank you, Ashley. And thanks, Abby. I've never used a dating app and it never, I've used a dating app and it never worked for me. Not sure why. Can you share your suggestions?
Totally. So I'll just say, first of all, dating apps frustrate me a lot. Of course, there is an algorithm. None of us really know this mystery algorithm. We all assume in this business that, it's based on how much you log in or how much you spend or, how much time you're even spending on the app. So that could be part of it. It's difficult. I think that apps are difficult for everyone unless you want to dedicate almost like a part-time job amount of time to them. That is kind of part of why I started matchmaking, is because I was that serial dater going on 3 to 4 dates a week with men I met online. And, shamelessly, I definitely was sometimes just getting a free drink or a free meal. And I know there's a lot of that out there. So it's hard to sort through who's serious, who's there for real, who's catfishing, who even looks like their photos. So I think the best way to use a dating app, get great pictures, make sure your bio like really can turn away people who aren't serious. And I have some tips on that too if you guys want me to dive deeper into that. I also do help people optimize, as I say, their dating profiles. So if you ever want me to take a look at it and just give you a straight critique, we can do that. And I have an amazing company too that does photo shoots for dating apps. So sometimes it really is, you gotta wow with those photos, and it is superficial. So if you're gonna be on there, you just kind of gotta know, how is the best way to market myself when someone has like 15 seconds to swipe left or swipe right?
That's really good advice, Abby. And something comes up for me when you were sharing is that uh, the question is like, why would I want to turn somebody away who's not meant for me? And what I found in my experience using the apps, and I was using them quite a bit in the 3 years that I was single, is I wanted to save myself and primarily myself time. And I also wanted to save the other person time too, because if my profile is specific enough to weed out those that are not looking for a relationship, then that's great for me. Would you agree? Or do you have any other tips on
Oh,
that?
totally. There's always the prompt in every dating app, I'm looking for. There's always a place for that. And not everyone uses it, which I totally think you should. I shamelessly, I go on all my friends' dating apps. I've been kicked off of every dating app because I go on there to try to like talk to people, and I'm like, hey, get off of here and let me set you up on a date. So they kick me off. But I go on my friends, and I saw one guy the other day who said, I'm looking for a woman where we can connect on a deeper level. We can have intellectual conversations, but also make each other laugh. I was like, I don't even care what his pictures look like. You need to meet this guy.
Hmm.
So just putting a statement like that out there, anyone who isn't serious, you will not match with. And then you'll be able to sort through things a bit easier too.
That's awesome. I remember before I deleted Hinge for the last time, my prompt was like, what are your love languages? Or I said physical touch, quality time, and memes. And that was the prompt that got my partner to actually match with me. So they can work. And I love that you're talking about being as specific as you possibly can. So, really quick before we get to Brittany, and then we'll answer Amanda's question, is Jessica asks, do you use the attachment theory as part of the matchmaking work?
So, yes and no. So, I definitely want people to be aware of their attachment style. I think that above and beyond is super helpful. I can't tell you how many copies of the book Attached I send out. I should be getting kickbacks from those people. I'm sure all of you in this room, if you're working with Dave, know all about attachment theory. But it's really just, I think, like the love languages, great to be aware of because it makes you show up better as a dater and in relationships.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that when I understood my attachment style to the best of my ability, yes, there was still going to be growing pains when I got into that relationship, but as long as I was aware of it, I could share with my partner what was going on, what was coming up for me, and then also be more supportive and compassionate for when that opportunity arises. So I love that question and I love your answer. Let's see what Brittany has to say. Go ahead. I'll ask you to unmute, Britt.
Hi. This is the first time I'm doing this, so it's kind of different for me. But back on what you're talking about with like your apps and stuff like that, when you're saying about looking for specifics, how would you suggest as far as kind of putting specifics without seeming extremely negative? Like, because I know even with like politics or religion or whatever, like I have specific things I'm looking for too, but like you also don't want to be like, well, I don't want this and I don't want this. So like that's, I feel like when you see something like that, you can see like that it's like this person has a specific, partner in mind, but you also don't want to come across as like, I'm not looking for anything else but this, because you are open, but you're still like, you don't want to be negative. So how would be the best way to kind of do that?
Totally. Amazing question, too, because I think, especially like with politics right now, things can even get feisty on dating apps. I'm sure it's like everything you see is like Trump supporter, or swipe left, or
Right.
things
Yeah.
like that. So, I think negativity is a great way to scare someone off. Um,
Right.
so, you can, I think a lot of the things you can flip into a positive. For example, like let's say religion is super important. I work with a lot of people who, they're Christian faith, is super important. Christian values, like that comes up a lot with people I work with. So rather than saying like, no, atheists, maybe say like, I value my Christian faith and I want to find someone who shares that with me, who I could bring to church, take home to mom, something like that, because that will resonate with someone who, shares those similar values.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally.
Thanks, Brittany. Great question.
Do you have an example like you want me to like talk out with you or anything if you feel comfortable? If not, like no worries at all.
Well, for me, I mean, those are two huge, huge things for me. As far as religion, I'm very into my faith. I mean, I'm not somebody who doesn't appreciate other people's faiths, but I want somebody I can go to church with and things like that. And also, I am a super supporter and non-supporter of certain political parties, we'll say. So it's one of those things that like you don't want to, completely dismiss somebody, but also I feel like your values or your belief systems are going to be very important to where you're going to clash on a lot of things that when you have kids and stuff, it's going to be a huge breaking point. So that's, like you said, it's very hard. I was on dating apps and I went away for a while because I'd gotten ghosted and stuff and I didn't like it. I just felt like it was very strange. And then, like you said, with this whole politics thing, it's become very polarizing. So I don't want to be rude, but there are certain people I'm not looking for. So that's why I didn't know, like you said, how you would approach that, on your profile without sounding rude.
Totally. Well, I feel like if, let's say someone is anti-Trump, if you're like, hey, Trump supporters swipe left, rather than that, just be like, hey, my conservative values are really important to me, or, my progressive values are important to me, or you could say, hey, on the weekend, maybe you'd find me at a Black Lives Matter protest. So what, I think just taking that positive spin, and if you want to, chat more after this and go through specifics, just let me know too.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, great question, Brittany. And I love Abby's answer. I couldn't agree more that putting a positive spin, I am statements. I am passionate about this. I am looking for a partner who shares some of these, but has their own life as well. I am very respectful of the differences that we can bring into a relationship. I love Abby's take on the positive versus the negative and how can we present ourselves. Because I bet when you come across an app or a profile that's kind of negative of like, I think Abby said, Trump supporters swipe left. Well, that to me, whether I was a Trump supporter or not, I might actually swipe left on the negativity as opposed to whatever value they're trying to share there. So that's just me being very selective in how much time I spend there and how much time I give to any person that I don't know. Does that make sense? All right. So thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Abby, once again. And we'll answer Amanda's question. She asked, Abby, do you have a wide variety of men in the matchmaking service?
I definitely do. Men and women wise, I work with people from different backgrounds, different faiths, they have different interests, all kinds of things. So the men are all different. They're not all like bodybuilder types that have a six pack. Some of them are engineers, some of them are creatives, introverts, extroverts, all across the board.
Good. There's kind of a follow-up question down here, Abby, that Ashley asks, and what makes the best match coming from your perspective, say like in the matchmaking service?
Totally. I mean, I hate to say, but the answer is totally, it depends. For some people, it's like having someone who has like all those similar interests, same outlook on everything, that is going to be their jam. For others, it truly is like opposites attract. They want someone who challenges them, who they can have those debates with and isn't going to agree with everything and can kind of show them different things. So, I mean, the best way for me to determine your best match is really by just getting to know you. If you're like, hey, my goal is like retire on a farm and grow my own food, then I can easily determine, who would be a good fit into your life and who can help you accomplish those dreams and goals.
Awesome. Before we get to Kay's question, thanks, Kay, for raising your hand. And Abby, this question's for you. You indicated that there are fewer men than women in your matchmaking service. Could you please share the ratios?
Totally. So I have two kind of ways that people work with me. So in my database, which is like my pool of amazing, awesome singles, there's about 500 people in there. And that is probably 65% women. So definitely more women in there. And then I also have my one-on-one members that are like, I am their matchmaker. I'm their dating guru. I wear many hats for them. And that is probably 80% men. So that's kind of how it works out, where I have all these men, where I am searching for them. And then I'm like, hey, come to me because I have all the amazing, beautiful, successful women right here.
Thank you, Abby. That inspires a question for me. Then I'll ask after. Kay, go ahead and unmute yourself. I definitely want to hear what you have to say. Okay.
Hi guys, I'm still packing up my apartment, so I keep going off video, but there's not a good way to ask this. But I grew up in a household with a lot of financial turmoil. So it is extremely important to me that when I go to the grocery store, I don't have to check the bank account to buy my groceries. So I don't need someone who's a millionaire, but I need a good way of verbalizing the stability, financial stability that I need on dates or dating profiles.
Totally. I mean, that is a huge one. I feel like the biggest reasons relationships don't work out are like sex and intimacy or finances or communication issues. Dave, tell me if I'm missing one. But I feel like those are the big ones.
Keep rolling, keep going.
Yeah.
You're killing it.
Totally. So, it's like either you lose that physical intimacy, people don't agree on finances, all those things. I wonder, there are kind of like different ways people relate to money. And I always talk to people about this in my interviews of like, you're either good at spending, investing, or saving are kind of like the three big ones. So you could even put in your profile, there's actually the 5 money personalities. There's 2 more that I can't think of, but maybe that's something you even put in your profile. Like,
Okay.
hey, when it comes to the 5 money personalities, I am a saver, and then that's like a cool prompt where someone who's interested in that, or you could even make a joke of it and be like, hey, if you don't have your financial advisor on speed dial, then maybe we won't be a good match. That could be something, conversation starter. And, it's an interesting thing to weed out, especially online, because, not everyone is honest about finances up front. I've definitely experienced that in some relationships I've been into.
Thanks, Kay. Thanks, Abby. Now, Abby, you mentioned the 5 money personalities. Share just a little bit more about that because I'm not familiar with the assessment or what the source is there, and I want to learn.
Totally. You know what? I'm going to do I'm going to butcher it because I don't have the 5 memorized. But a financial advisor who I send all my clients to, we're actually about to record a podcast episode about this, how, like money and relationships, how to talk about it, how to figure out like, are you good at spending? Are you good at saving? Are you good at investing? All those things. And sometimes it's nice to have someone who compliments you in those relationships, but it can also be a point of contention. Just my own example, I'm engaged. My fiance, he's a financial advisor, and he's really good at investing money, but he's also really good at spending money. And I'm really good at saving money. So sometimes we have our discussions where we don't agree, and it's all about communication. I don't think it needs to be a deal breaker. 2 savers, they'll probably be super happy together and you guys can save and, save for a big vacation or whatever it is. But it's kind of nice to have those complementary financial skills, just as you progress in life and, have more money and prepare to retire, hopefully, eventually.
That's so interesting to me because I do agree with you that money and communicating about money can cause some strain in a relationship down the road. And I'm interested in learning about how to communicate that better in my world. So something that came up for me, and maybe you can weigh in on this for Kay's question of like, okay, matching on the app, having good banter back and forth. We set the first date, and let's say like the guy chooses a walk in the park the first time, and then a hike the second time. And Kay is worried about maybe like, is he avoiding taking me out to dinner? You know, because we do want like the excitement of like getting ready, getting dressed, you know, actually going out in public together. And what we use here in our community is nonviolent communication to address things like that. Hey, I've noticed that we've gone to the park and for a hike on our first 2 dates. And I love both of those activities. We had a great time. We had a good conversation. What I noticed is that we haven't gone out to lunch, or you haven't asked me out to coffee. Is that something to do with your budget, or where are you at right now? How would that come across for you?
I mean, I love that. I think that, we're all sometimes too worried about, am I going to hurt someone's feelings? If I ask, are they going to run away? I think that's an immediate red flag if they aren't open to talking about it. And I think it's like when you go on that first weekend getaway with someone, maybe you've been seeing each other for a bit, that maybe that's the time to bring it up. You're like, hey, are we gonna split this? How is this looking? Do you feel comfortable paying $400 a night to stay in Vail? Or do you want to stay in Frisco and we can pay $100 a night? That can be a good gauge. You can also ask like, hey, what's your like dream of retirement? You can kind of figure out, are they saving? Do they have a 401k? Things that honestly I've run into with a couple of people I've been working with where a woman was like, you know what? We actually talked about it and I feel like he's not saving enough for me. And so I could live, the comfortable life that I'm used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can totally see that perspective, and it comes up in, say, like the men's group work that I do, where we talk about um, earning power and earning and things like that. And I don't want to go too far into this rabbit hole, but I just want to say that I can relate to Kay's answer coming from my point of view, and I wanted to thank you for your share as well. It's worth a conversation. I'd love to be connected with the financial advisor to interview on our podcast over here so that we can dig deeper into that, because I can see that coming up as a challenge for people.
Yeah, it is so interesting. I'll send you more info about the 5 money personalities after this too.
I'd appreciate that. So I do have a message, and I'm curious to know the answer, and I'd like to weigh in too. But the challenge is like when people match, and the masculine person in the situation is trying to ask open-ended questions and receives an answer back, but no question in return. And the masculine is feeling like, well, I have to ask like all these questions in order to get them to open up. How do you coach people to have that authentic conversation while using an app where it's kind of like reciprocal?
Oh God, it is so hard on an app, Like even if you're the best conversationalist, you could be terrible over text. My advice is get off that app as soon as possible. That is just going to delay, getting to know that person. Offer up a phone call, a FaceTime, a video chat. I tell people 5 messages, and if you're still intrigued and if they're responding, it's a two-way street. I kind of think if you feel like you are just continually in the masculine, always asking the questions, leading everything. You throw that out there. Hey, I'm free tonight. Let's do a phone call, and then we can see where it goes from there.
Mm-hmm.
I've had so many times where people have been texting and texting, and then they actually meet, and they're like, "Your friends must have been sending those messages because you're not funny at all." I'm sure maybe some of you in this room raise your hand if that has been something you run into too.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I've had friends who show up like that on text message, and then we get together for coffee or lunch or whatever. And it's like, wow, I don't know how to take this, even in friendship. So I totally get that. But um, I totally agree that like on the app, it's really hard to judge a person where they're at, what's going on in their world. And I like to give a lot of grace there in that situation when I'm chatting with somebody. However, coming from the masculine pole, I do know that I want to take the lead. And I do also know that the feminine on the other side is wanting to surrender, but there's got to be that trust and respect built before the feminine does so. And I won't go too far into energy dynamics tonight, but I've found in my experience that it did take me 5 or 6 questions from the masculine to the feminine in order to get a reciprocation back. And what I found is I just had to be a little bit more patient and take the lead just a little bit further to the edge of where I feel like I'm comfortable doing. And then I always got a reciprocation after that.
Yeah, that's a good point for sure. I mean, and I think some of the struggle too is men usually get less matches online than women. So sometimes it's like maybe as a woman you get a bunch of messages or like a few, and a guy's like, oh, I have this one woman to focus all my attention on, and I'm just gonna love bomb her or whatever it is. So sometimes they take it too far. But yeah, as soon as you can just be like, hey, phone call, video chat, if you feel comfortable with that, it's better than wasting your time meeting someone in person, especially with COVID. I'm sure, many people are being much more careful, of course, about who they expose themselves to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that, like, the extreme you mentioned was love bombing. And then the other end of the spectrum is like quitting too soon before you ask that one really invigorating question that you're going to get reciprocation from. And we can meet right in the middle. And what I hear you saying is that whoever's going to take the lead, it doesn't matter who, escalates it just a little bit further of like, hey, I want to be decisive here. I feel a good vibe. I'd like to meet you for coffee, or I'd like to have a phone call with you. And then you open up that escalation just a little bit to get that decisiveness in return. And if they're sending you mixed signals, I'm going to take that as a no.
Yeah, and that's a perfect way to weed people out too.
Saves everyone time. So I'm going to ask Brittany to expand on this conversation or this question. Brittany, do you mind unmuting and ask, maybe kind of expand on the COVID question?
There you go. Okay. Sorry, I'm still learning. So my question was, when you were talking about, for me, I don't connect well over like the apps and things and texting and all that kind of stuff. I'm much more, usually I would wind up being with like friends or things like that, because you'd be hanging around them, you'd be getting to know them and things like that. Well, that's what we were saying with COVID. How do you, like, because even right now, like, we're all talking and but I'm not really getting your real personalities, like, so it's hard. Like, how do you do that with COVID? Because you want to meet people, but you also, like, I live with my parents and stuff, so I have high risk people at home, so stuff like that, like, I'm not going to expose myself to dangers of stuff just to go, my social life is pretty much taking a back seat because of all of this. But you'd like to meet more people, but the hard part is, like, you don't want to just do Zoom or just do, so what are, when it's saying about like the things that you've talked about maybe trying to do in COVID times, what do you suggest we do, kind of a thing, to go out and meet people and talk to people?
Totally. So a couple things, because I definitely have a handful of people I work with now who are in a similar situation with you, like maybe they're a caretaker for a grandparent or elderly parent. It's all about kind of taking that virtual date to the next level. So of course, we can all sit on a Zoom and stare at ourselves, and it's all you do. I'm staring at my face all day. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But taking it to that next level where it's like, maybe let's watch a movie together. Like, there's so many things you can do virtually. You can literally watch a movie together. You're still like there with the person. I have had a couple people who do virtual dates. They order takeout from the same restaurant. Maybe someone even pays for the other person's takeout and orders it to their house with a sweet note or whatever it is, and you eat your dinner together, and you're like, we ordered from the same place. It's something to chat about. I know it sounds weird to eat with someone over Zoom, but I actually have like a Monday lunch with one of my best friends in California every week, and we eat our lunch over Zoom and just chat. It's like we're together. It's kind of what you make it. I have like a whole laundry list of cool virtual dates you can do. So if you need more, I can even send, I think I have a blog post I can put in the
Mm.
chat.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then if you do feel comfortable meeting in person, I mean, a walk in the park, something outside, Top Golf where you're like outside in the open air, um, anything like that, where you can still interact, but you can be outside and maybe feel more comfortable. If you have pets, bring your dog, see if they're friends. It's kind of a cool element to dating right now, that it's not just like, let's get a few drinks together and get buzzed and see what happens. It's
Mhm.
almost forcing people to like connect more authentically, because you don't have that crutch of a drink.
Mhm. I completely agree, Abby. And what comes up for me, Brittany, when you ask that question is about boundaries. And sharing boundaries even before you meet somebody through an app or through text messaging or on the phone is a very, very healthy thing to build long-term trust and respect. It also helps you, like Abby and I have been talking about, weeding out those people that are not meant for us. So when I was dating and I was using the apps and it was COVID, I used this phrase of like, what is your comfort level with dating right now during COVID? And then it's an open-ended question. It allows them to open up and kind of be a little bit vulnerable while they understand that intuitively there's a boundary going to be set here. And then it allows you, Brittany, to share back in reciprocation of like, hey, this is my current situation. I'm caring with my parents. I'm caring for my parents right now. I need to have this boundary in my life.
Okay.
And then it might actually give you the information you need in order to move forward with like, okay, this person told me they're seeing 3 other people. This person says that they just got on the app and they haven't set up any other dates yet. Okay, what's your comfort level? Do you want to go for a walk in the park 6 feet apart? Or do you want to sit on the park bench and kind of flirt a little bit by like sliding a little closer than 6 feet? That way you get to judge by setting the boundary, make sure this person is meant for you in the first place, and then also keep your boundary in place.
Okay.
Yeah. How does that land for you?
No, that's really good. Actually, I never thought about it like that. Because I did read the book with boundaries and stuff, and I do like that. I like being able to, if you can respect that and everything, then you're kind of on the closer same page. So no, I like that a lot, actually. Thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. I want to take it back to Jeanette's question. She's asking it from the other end of the spectrum. So she says, how about if the woman wants to ask the question about if you want to meet up? Like the Jeanette is taking the lead here and pushing it to the invitation. What do you think, Abby?
I don't think there is anything wrong with the woman being like, hey, let's set a time to meet up. You know, Guys probably love that. And Dave, tell me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't happen as often. So guys like, oh, okay. I'm intrigued. She's taking the initiative. Usually I just send like 20 hey messages and just sit around and wait for someone to answer. So it's almost like refreshing, I think. And of course, maybe that's putting you like, you're in your masculine energy in that moment. You're saying, hey, I'm going to take the initiative. But you're letting him know you're interested. There is nothing wrong with that. That was totally my vibe when I was single, and it definitely works. I think what's difficult is many more women are in their masculine energy now, where before it was just like, hey, we just follow the lead, the guy has to do everything. So nothing wrong with that. Totally go for it. And my advice and kind of how to word the message even is like, hey, I'd love to meet up, and then give them options. I'm free Thursday at 5 or Saturday at noon for a virtual date. Because if you leave it too open-ended, it's you may never hear back, or they'll just say yeah.
I really do enjoy that answer, Abby. And I'm completely on board with the masculine energy being put out there, whether it's a man or a woman, taking the lead. It's showing the other person that you're interested. And what better feeling can I get than receiving interest from somebody that I'm also interested in as well? It kind of breaks down that barrier of like, takes out the question mark. it takes away the mixed signals for me, you know? So I'm going to be more open with somebody who chooses me as opposed to somebody who I'm chasing after for that first date. Because it might fizzle out for me after after one or two tries, and then like, okay, I'm not getting anything in return.
Oh, totally. I mean, Dave, have you gotten a message from a woman before wanting to meet up?
I have, you know, recently within the fall, I believe, and a couple messages came over across social media, and I was actually really grounded and centered in the moment. And I said, hey, as much as I would like to, I'm in a relationship. Thank you. And I think both times that happened, I got the message back of like, wow, I didn't expect you to say that. Thank you for telling me that now, as opposed to, you know, something like they would share something that happened in their own lives where a guy didn't respond in the same way. Comes back to that authentic piece that you were talking about earlier.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're all expecting people to like lie to us on dating apps. It's just kind of like the expectation now, which hurts me. But it's like when you are just like authentically you and you're like, hey, you know what? It's my vibe that I want to ask you out. And it doesn't matter what role you play in that relationship. Go for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I love this next question. Thank you so much, Marissa, for asking this. She usually ignores the hey beautiful or hey sexy messages because they lead me to believe that they only looked at my pictures. And do you agree that this is appropriate?
Oh, I totally agree. Yes. And maybe they read your bio, but it's just like, you know, I feel bad sometimes for men because they do have to be pretty damn creative on the dating apps. But I think they can do better than hey beautiful or hey sexy, and you're probably doing yourself a favor by just saying next.
I agree. I totally agree. I do want my opening line to be able to stand out against those messages that are just the hey beautiful, hey sexy. Coming from my perspective, say what I was using Bumble during the 3 years that I was single, and a woman has to make the first move on Bumble, and I would occasionally get that hey message. I'm still going to respond because I'm generally giving a lot of grace and the benefit of the doubt for how hard it is to take the initiative, whether it's a man or a woman taking that first step. So I'm like, well, at least the match didn't expire this time, you know? However, I'm taking the experience with a grain of salt. I'm like, okay, who is the person behind the profile? Who is the person behind that hey message? And that's what I want to find out anyways, because I was always my intention was to find a relationship. I wasn't looking for a relationship with somebody who has one word questions or one word answers. But I want to circle back to Brittany's point. When she would take the initiative, she would find guys that would ghost. And before I turn it over to you, Abby, I want to weigh in here. I feel as if like everyone loves a challenge, right? And if I'm the masculine in the partnership and I want to take the lead, and in this scenario, if I ghost, well, then that person wasn't meant for you anyways. Maybe I'll just leave it with that before I turn it over to you, Abby.
I mean, yes, exactly. If they're ghosting that early on, they are doing you a favor. It's the same with the hey sexy, hey beautiful. They're showing their true colors. They'd probably ghost you after you met in person, if that's their thing. And, um, you know, I actually have a no ghosting rule in my matchmaking service. So everyone signs a contract that you cannot ghost, can't ghost anyone, you can't ghost me. And if you do, you are kicked out, one strike system, no money back. I take it very, very seriously. That is literally my only rule. So I have a personal just mission to stop ghosting in the world. And I even host a podcast called Ghosted that Dave has been an amazing guest on too.
Yeah, I love the experience of joining you in that brewery that afternoon to record that episode. And we had a guest on our podcast that was talking about ethical dating. You know, having a rule and a set of standards and your approach to dating with that commitment for yourself to not ghost somebody else, but also to come back full circle and setting boundaries that prevent people from having that opportunity to ghost as well. I recall a time where I would receive a message back from somebody that I would ask questions to a week later, and it was always on a Saturday. And I'm like, hey, I noticed that you only message me on a Saturday. And is that because you're only checking in on the app once a week? Because that actually makes me feel like you're not interested. Is there any truth to that? And pretty quickly, I got a message back that was like, no, that's not entirely true. You're right. I just check in with the app once a week. And then the conversation got started from there.
Totally. I mean, it is hard. That's like another obstacle on the apps. They got to log in and look at the message, you know? So that's why I say, you know, as soon as you can take yourself off that platform, you know, the better.
Yeah, I agree. Get to that in-person or Zoom or virtual date or that phone call as quickly as you possibly can. So we've got a few minutes left before we take it to the next section of our evening tonight. Abby, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Really, they're probably texting is honestly the best way. I'll put all my info in the chat. You can text me and, you know, I can answer any questions. We can find a time to chat more, or, you know, if matchmaking is something that you're interested in doing, we can set up a time to do my full-blown interview so I can get to know you better. Not like a job interview, very fun. And if you don't have fun, then there's a problem. So, you know, we'll talk about all of that. You guys can also follow me on social media. At Modern Yenta is my personal account, and then the social is the business. So you can follow those for events. Those are all open to everybody, virtual and in person right now. And then I'll put all this stuff in the chat, and I'm sure Dave will also send an email with everything too.
Yeah, thanks, Abby. Please do so. Please put that in the chat box. Jessica, you're right that like sharing your number too soon is definitely an individual comfort level. We want to be able to date safely, both physically, emotionally, and mentally during whether there's a pandemic or not. So I'm on board with only sharing your number. And Abby just throws her number in there. That's funny on that timing.
I have no boundaries, everyone. Contact whenever.
That's so funny that the timing of that conversation came up, and then boom, we've got Abby's cell phone number right there. And I want to ask this question before we jump into an exciting finish for our evening. Tips for having more fun while dating comes from Ashley. And if Ashley, you want to unmute and expand on that a little bit, but Abby, I'll start you off.
Yes, I love this question because dating should be fun. Let's start there. If you are not having fun dating, maybe you're feeling burnt out, maybe you've been on 3 dates a week for the past 10 years, please take a break. There is no harm in doing that. And I deal with so many people, like dating burnout is a real thing. It's just like if you're in a job and you're working 20 hours a day. That's kind of crazy. No one's doing that. But you get what I mean. So having more fun, I think, with every date, and kind of like we did tonight, set an intention. Something that is not to have sparks or fireworks or to find the one. Something that is like to meet someone new, to laugh, to learn something new about another person, to try a new restaurant, to do something weird on a virtual date, like watch a movie together. Something like that will just automatically give you a better mindset and headspace that you're in for that date. You know, we all put so much pressure on ourselves when it comes to dating. Like, oh my gosh, I have to meet this person. I have to present like everything in my best self. My outfit has to be perfect. I have to say the perfect things, you know, and then this person needs to be my partner after this date. That is like, do not put that pressure on yourself. Like, tell yourself, hey, I just want to laugh. Or maybe you love making other people laugh. If you need like any other ideas for cool intentions like that, let me know. Send me a message, text, all my info's in there. But yeah, I really hope everyone has fun dating, because it should be a fun and exciting experience.
Well, I
Thanks,
like
Abby.
that suggestion.
Go ahead, Ashley. Go ahead,
of
Ashley. Thanks.
Like a small intention, like something that's much more bite size. Then, a lot of times if we're looking for like a long-term relationship, there's this seriousness or these expectations and different things. So the bite size helps. And then also, like, I've never been a person that really liked apps. And I've always met partners in person, which someone else mentioned. So it's like how can I like make this fun, keep it fun, keep the energy going? And I think like what you said, maybe making it smaller is going to be easier. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I apply this to like everything, honestly, in my life. Even when I'm just like, maybe I feel like I have to have like a daunting conversation with a friend because something came up in our relationship. I'm like, okay, I know I'm gonna have this conversation, but I just want to go into this with the intention of like, let's come out of this on the end and have something to laugh about. So it's an interesting way to just approach kind of lots of relationships. And I actually send a little pep talk to all my daters before they go out, and I make them pick their intention and even let me know what it is.
I like that. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Abby. That was a phenomenal answer to close us out. But before I let anyone go for the evening, Abby has a special giveaway that she is so pumped to offer up to one of you. So we've got a couple ideas on how to do this, but tell us a little bit about what they're going to get.
Totally. I know we talked about like 6 different things.
Total enthusiast and total challenger, just feeling like, yes, I lust for it all. Give it to me.
Oh, I know. I am just really excited, first of all, to connect with any and all of you who feel like, matchmaking or, meeting someone in a different way. It feels like something you're called to do. So, I think I'm going to do a free hour-long interview with anyone who's interested, just to get to know you better and all of that. And then, Dave, can I mention the other thing?
I'm going to save that one for tomorrow's email. Everyone who signed up through the email thread that I was communicating how to attend the event is going to get an email with the recording tomorrow and another special offer from Abby. So Jessica is in on this giveaway. So how we're going to give away this 60-minute freebie with Abby is she's going to think of a number between 1 and 100. And if you want to be entered into that, just post your guess in the box and Abby will pick the winner based on how close you guys are.
Okay,
so
wait.
Abby?
1 in 100. Oh my God, wait, hold on.
All right, Ashley, you can get another guess because you're just a little bit early. So we're going to erase that one. Don't look at the screen, Abby.
Okay, I'm not looking.
All right.
Okay, okay, I have my number.
All right. As these numbers come through, tell us your number. 433. Thanks, Amanda. What was your number, Abby?
It was 69 because I'm a child.
Oh my God, you are such a child. So I see a 77. That's pretty close. That's only 8 away. Boom, Jamie.
Or is 55 closer?
No, that's 14.
Oh yeah, okay, you're better at math than I.
I'm I was hanging with my partner's family on. Go ahead. Sorry.
I put 72, but I don't know if I.
Oh, where was it? Where
It's
is
in-
it?
Yeah. Let me see. It's under Jamie's.
42.
No, 72.
Where is it, Anita?
I put it in there. I screenshotted it. I can see it on my end. Can
Anita,
not
you
see it?
probably direct messaged it to someone.
Oh, it does.
I received it. Yeah, that's probably what happened.
Oh, who did I send it to?
So we're gonna
I don't know.
I'm sorry, guys.
All right. We're gonna figure out a solution to that, but to honor Jamie's guess, she's the official winner, but I want to keep everybody here who wants to participate who wants to participate in the next section of our call tonight. We'll sort this all out, guys. So Abby, I would like to invite you to stick around as an honored guest for our check-in period. So for our normal members of the Believe coaching program, that's Anita, Jessica, Jamie, Ashley, and I think Jeanette's on the call still too. We do weekly check-ins. So I'm going to honor that with our small group. And I want to invite people to stick around to experience that as well. If that's okay with our members, go ahead, put in the chat box that you're okay with that. The more the merrier. But what we do is we share a win, a challenge, and a truth from our week every single week. And what we do is we have an opportunity to reflect back to one another. So I'm going to ask people who want to stick around, please do so. If you want to take off for the night, I just want to say thank you before you go for all of your participation and all of your fun attitudes that you brought with you tonight. I really feel as if it fit in with our intention for the evening, which Abby, I'm so honored to have you come and educate us on your areas of expertise. And I think we should do this again. You know, if we could blow it out of the water at some point, and I know an enthusiast isn't going to say no to that, but
all right, you know I'm in.
oh wow, I got a private message that was like, hey, I didn't know any of the details, but I just clicked the Zoom link and all of a sudden I was in the event. I think we got a perfect stranger to join us. So I'm so blessed to have everyone who showed up. The power of social media is pretty much how we got connected. So if you guys met me on social media, raise your hand. Right? Yeah, Abby, I think you did. So
I think you did.
we're gonna transition to more of like a our regular check-in. So